Hello everyone, welcome to The Green Man. Hope you're all good and well. So tonight I am bringing to you 10 of my favourite album opening tracks. I've selected a variety of different metal subgenres here to try and cater for different tastes so they're not all from one palette. I would also preface this video by saying that these tracks aren't necessarily in any order. They are just 10 of my favourite tracks I selected from my music library that I've gone back to a lot. In some cases these tracks are so good they set the tone for the rest of the album. In other cases they are so good the rest of the album pales in comparison and falls a little short. I'm now going to kick off my list with my first choice, or my first pick of 10 of my favourite killer album opening tracks. So we have Widowmaker from the Black Dahlia Murder from their album Nightbringers, which came out in 2017. This track starts with that kind of interesting electronic sound, which kind of makes you think a bit like you're kind of at a gig and the lights are going out and you're getting ready for the start of the live performance. And it certainly has that effect when the death metal comes crashing in after a minute or so. And Trevor Strnad's, I always think his vocals have a lot of personality to them, a lot of versatility, and this is one of my favourite tracks from Black Dahlia Murder. It kicks off this album with such a bang, and for me has one of my favourite guitar solos from Brandon Ellis in that comes towards the end of this track. Next up, I have selected Kangaroo by Asphyx. Perhaps one of the main reasons for me loving this track so much. It starts off the album Incoming Death from 2016, and one of the reasons I love this track so much is actually the middle part of this track, where it changes tempo a bit and it goes into that big chunky head banging rhythm. That's the kind of riff that if you've got long hair, you've got no excuse not to head bang along to this track. That's Kangaroo by Asphyx off Incoming Death in 2016. Next up, I have chosen Ethica Odini from the album Axioma Ethica Odini by Enslaved, which came out in 2010. What a way to start off this album. It starts off with kind of, a pretty fast black metal riff, and there's a change about halfway through the track which goes into this pretty lovely clean melodic section. After a kind of weird guitar chord progression, you go into that amazing more melodic section of vocals as well, with some really great lyrics here as well. And this is one of my favourite Enslaved tracks of all time, not least because it shows off the versatility of Enslaved and their evolution as a band, going from black metal to kind of more progressive metal tendencies in their later years. Next up, I have selected Condemned to the Gallows by Between the Buried and Me off their album Automata 1, and in this case the rest of this album is actually a little bit of a disappointment compared to Condemned to the Gallows, which I think is an awesome opening track by these guys, really exemplifying, I think, how good Tommy Rogers' clean vocals can be, as well as another fantastic guitar solo in this track, this time by Paul Wagner, who delivers the goods with a perfectly timed solo after a breakdown, I think, in this track. Next up is Crip's Sermons, the Ninth Templar, Black Candle Flame off their album The Ruins of Fading Light in 2019. And this is another fantastic track with a vocalist who shows an amazing range, kind of somewhat reminiscent perhaps of an 80s heavy metal band, and the kind of clean vocal singing you would get from some legendary bands of that era. This is such a good track. I actually remember the first time I listened to it on a night bus journey after I'd maybe had a little bit too much to drink, thinking the next morning, wondering if the track would sound as good when I was sober, and it almost definitely did sound as good when I was sober. This is a great way to open up their album, The Ruins of Fading Light. Next on my list is the first kind of power metal-y. This is actually slightly power metal, slightly symphonic metal. This is the band Follow the Cipher with their opening track Enter the Cipher, something a bit different I've put on the list here. Really incredibly infectious track by these guys. The hook in that riff is really good though. I mean, I absolutely love this song. Not so keen on the rest of this album, I have to say. This is an example of an album where I actually think the opening track is, for me, the absolute highlight of this album. It's that good that the rest of the album for me struggles to really keep to that sort of, the dynamic level, the energetic level that this track has for me. And it's just a really, really great, catchy song that will get you up in the morning if you need something to get you out of bed. Right, next up on my list is Five Serpents' Teeth by Evil. of their album, I think, of the same name from 2011. And this is another track which has the kind of another great kind of slightly slows the tempo down, so you've got room to headbang with that headbanging riff that's, you know, comes in, I think, kind of in the bridge part of this track. One of my favourite Evil songs is kind of the title track, the opening track of this fantastic album by them, which is possibly my favourite Evil album. I've just given away my favourite Evil album if I was to do an Evil ranking, so that's my mistake. Apologies for that. But I love Five Serpents' Teeth. It is a fabulous album, and this is just the best way to start the album off. Next up, I've chosen a black metal album opener with Northern Chaos Gods by Immortal from 2018. Demonaz really delivers the goods here with those cool vocals, and as usual they are combined brilliantly with the black metal rhythms on display here, and not to mention a pretty impressive guitar solo to add to the atmosphere of this track towards the end. This is really sets the tone for me for what is one of my favourite black metal albums actually of recent times, Northern Chaos Gods by Immortal. And this is an opening track to not forget anytime soon. Coming towards the end of this list now, my next choice is Pallbearer's I Saw the End from the album Heartless in 2017. I think this is the first doom metal pick on this list, and this is, you know, an album that does start off very, you know, kind of slow. You think maybe the rest of the track is going to be like your typical Pallbearer, very slow tempo, very moody, but also very enchanting kind of a track. But towards the end, they throw in a tempo change, and you have just an amazing rhythm and guitar solo, and it really is just, I think, one of my favourite Pallbearer tracks, even though it's not one of their standard typical slower, sludgy, gorgeous, enchanting kind of a tracks that they usually pull off so well. This is a slightly different kind of Pallbearer track, one of the reasons I like it so much from them. Last on my list is Tree of Suffocating Souls by Triptychon from their album Milana Chasmata back from 2014. And this is just a crushing way to start this album off. I mean, it has that awesome riff in it. I love the way the vocals kind of echo what the guitars do to a degree here. Okay, the phrasing is great. And again, there's that kind of, what for me always can make the difference with the opening tracks is where they just throw in different things here and there, so you're just taken aback and blown away, because you need that. I always think with an opening track you need something which is going to completely blow you away for what remains on the album. Anyway, that is my 10 choices, 10 of my favourite album opening tracks, I guess, metal album opening tracks from recent years. What would 10 of your favourite openers be? Doesn't necessarily have to be from recent years. You can just select from any year any of your favourite 10 metal album openers. I'd be really interested to hear what some of your favourites are in the comments. Otherwise, if you are new to this channel, do feel free to drop a like and subscribe, or whatever it is you fancy doing. Otherwise, it's bye from me for now. Take care, everybody.